everyone. I'm Prasanna Nair, and I'm the founder of a generative AI company called the ETHRHCE. But my relationship with AI goes way back, 8 to 9 years, and I've always been, maybe even later than that, I've always been fascinated with the use, with the use of technology in enhancing and empowering the human experience. So my journey as a talent professional over the last 2 to 3 decades has always been about exploring ways and means to make this happen. So from interactive video discs in the 90s to the use of web-enabled user engagement platforms to the building of very complex, dynamic digital learning ecosystems. It's been a great ride, right? And the last 8 to 9 years specifically have been very rewarding ones for me because I was given the opportunity to build and sell AI-centric services to future-proof talent across the globe. And in fact, the Idea Tribe is actually an extension of this exploration. Now, my work with AI over the years has gotten me to view it as a tool, a very powerful tool at that, but a tool nevertheless. So every time I hear people telling me, that AI is going to change the world, I kind of, raise my hand and respond and say, hey, maybe we should change that narrative. It is actually the people that use AI that are changing the world. It is the people that are defining the use cases and bringing them onto the table. And if you see, all of these feature sets here, these are feature sets and aligned use cases that I have dabbled in. And I have worked with teams and clients across the world to help them figure out and solve some of their HR-specific problems as they transform and as a part of their transformation initiatives. Now, I have learned a lot as a part of this journey. And what I want to do today is to kind of share a few of the key takeaways with you. The first learning, in my view, is what I call the human plus approach. And why is the human so important in this loop? It's because it's been my experience that AI does very dumb things left on its own. And just to give you a hint of it, just take a look at what an irate Amazon customer sent out by way of a tweet. Hey, dear Amazon, I bought a toilet seat, but I'm not a toilet seat addict, so stop emailing me. So as I said earlier, AI left on its own does a lot of dumb things, and that's the reason why it's essential to have the human in the loop. Unfortunately, every time we talk about AI, for some reason, we talk about it in the extremes, right? In the context of making the human being redundant, right? And of replacing the human being. But that's not been my experience so far. So where I've seen initiatives maximize value is where AI and humans collaborate to achieve an objective that neither of them would be able to achieve on their own. And just to kind of illustrate that perspective, I want to share a story of a project that I did with a European bank. Now, the human equation of this bank, they took a legal framework-driven and ethical stance that all of the transformation activities that they were embarking on would not allow for a loss of jobs. So their story was about redeployment. And that's where we came in and we used AI to enable them to make this process as smooth and as smart as possible. For example, we used AI initially to optimize the review of thousands of documents. So you see examples of the documents here. There were way more, of hundreds of their employees across the organization, and extract relevant information. And once that information was extracted, what we did was we used AI to evaluate that data and align it to skills, to a skill set per person. And then began the process of what we call role adjacency. So again, we used AI to recommend new roles that a particular person could be aligned to. And it's a recommendation, right? That humans would then review and make a decision on. But this helped the bank save tons of time and money, because the next step in the process, the entire readiness build, right, became way more personalized and focused. Now, there are tons of other examples that I could share in this context, but the entire concept of focus on the human also brings up is this concept of diversity, and I want to talk a bit about it. My first interaction or my first exposure to the concept of diversity came from within the team I had to set up in the corporate environment as we built AI-specific services for HR. The team was not even close to anything that I was familiar with in my HR context, right? So I had, AI scientists, I had data engineers, I had visualizers, I had cloud specialists, in addition to talent professionals that were a part of my team. And what we realized with every project that we worked on was that, we had to break every silo that we knew of. We had to be joined at the hip, actually, if we had to maximize value. So the entire view of, what a HR team was supposed to look like shifted for me. Now, another corollary related to diversity is feedback. So right now, what we are doing is we are exploring multiple ways, multiple models, multiple contexts in which the models will exist to get feedback from both domain experts as well as users, because it's essential for us to get to the right feedback so that we can maximize the value of what we deliver in a given context. So feedback is all about, is key for us, and feedback is essential from a value realization point of view. And value realization brings me to the third and final point from my perspective, and that is the shift from POC to production. And I'll be the first one to admit that despite my 9 years and maybe 30, 35 POCs, I still struggle with this construct, right? I haven't been able to crack this nut, and that's the reason why it's a true golem for me. When we start on POCs, right, most of my clients across the globe, it's a standard. What they tell me is, hey, let's really do the POC in your environment. We will bend every rule in the game and try and make it happen, because if we touch our internal teams, and I don't know if it resonates with you, if we touch our internal IT, our internal AI teams, and our procurement teams, God forbid, it's never going to happen. But then we have a very successful POC, wonderful results, but when we go to productionize, that's when it comes back to bite us. The problems stay where they are, right? So the cycle from POC to production is very, very long, and it fails almost about 80% of the time. So this is a problem that I have not been able to crack as yet, and we are struggling to find solutions to. I'm sure that there are, several custom solutions, as there are reasons for this particular problem. But the message that I want to leave you with in the context of this particular point is that it's essential for us to have a shift in mindset and work towards a shift in mindset across the organization if we want to make this shift successful. It's essential that we not try to fit old wine or pour old wine into the new bottle. So that's really, really key. And that's all I have for you guys today. So if you have any questions, shoot.
Hi, thanks for a beautiful walkthrough. And I have a quick question. I'm from Star Agile. I'm Andrew. How do you think human-centered AI address ethical concerns such as bias, privacy, and accountability? And also came across a European bank suggesting the right profile for based on the different characters and strengths.
Yes.
So do you think that is possible to incorporate in the country as well, like India? Two questions. Sorry.
Okay. So let me address the first one, right? So it's about ensuring that diverse voices are included in the context, right? And it's also about responsibility. So for instance, if I were to implement the European bank example, I would not be able to do it on ChatGPT, right? I would probably, I basically hail from IBM before I started off my own company. So I would probably use the IBM internal LLMs to make that happen. So I will have to review every open source that I bring into the context from the perspective of security of data, from the perspective of how I should and could have removed the bias. And from a bias point of view, it's essential because what we do is we ensure two things. One is we ensure that the team that we're putting together, right, the tiger team that we put together represents voices from across the organization. Because, and these voices question each other at every point in time. It's a long and difficult journey, I must tell you that. It's not something that happens in 5 minutes or 1 hour as people, advertise sometimes about AI. These aspects do take time, okay? But they are very essential if we have to give the right value to the client. So that's the diversity of voices is very, very critical. So every piece of work that we do, every POC that we put in place, and when we productionize, we have a tiger team that the HR groups actually put together. And this tiger team is not only a representation of tech and domain experts, but it's also a representation of various personas that represent the organization. That's a high-level view to the first question. I forget the second question, so you'll have to repeat it.
So like the European bank, do you think it's possible to create a platform for people in India?
See, in all the work I've done across the globe, and I've done a lot of studies in India too, the big issue is people do not know what their organization's skill map is. So during COVID, just before COVID, I was working with a client in Australia, and they were like, well, this is poppycock. We don't want to do this, right? And right in the middle of COVID, this guy, CHRO, calls me, and he says, Prasanna, you're right. I have, 300 new roles, and I have no idea how to fit my existing, employees into those roles because I don't know them. Okay, I know some job roles, but I don't know them in the context of skills which are, ideally from an actionable point of view, which have to be linked to levels, and tasks form these, and tasks that are, a part and parcel of the levels. So your skill map has to be really, really, how do I say, deep, if you have to really action on it.
Right. Thank you, Prasanna.
Yeah. But you can, it's useful anywhere in the world. That's the bottom line. Yeah, so are we out of time?
Can we do
Do you
one
want to
more
take
question?
just one more question? Last question.
Okay, thank you. Hi. Hi, I'm Mahima. I'm from HUL. My
Yeah.
question to you is, in your experience, what do you think is the biggest success story of use of AI in the HR space? And while we speak a lot about chatbots or the talent marketplace, I think these are the two most commonly spoken about. In a lot of companies which have even adopted them, it's in very nascent stages. We still don't know what's the impact or the ROI. So if there's one thing where you can say with absolute surety that put your money behind this use case in AI and it will lead to results, what would that be?
Actually, there are two. Okay, one that we are using, one that's heavily used is summarization. And I'll give you an example of a pharma company, right? They had a very decentralized setup, and what they discovered was for a single job role, they had 50 to 60 definitions across the globe. And they wanted to summarize, and they wanted to summarize quickly because they were rebranding, right? And that's where AI works very well right now, okay? And the second is not in terms of personalization as we see it right now, because that's again old wine in a new bottle. It's about how do you build towards personalization. So for instance, creating content and courses, we use AI to, cut down. I think it takes approximately about 256 hours. I don't know what thumb rule is at your end, 256 effort hours for 1 hour of learning. We were able to cut it down to 40. Just by ensuring we're getting the right content in place, and by, for the SMEs to respond to, and for the instructional designers to work on. So these are the two areas that I would bet on.
Thank you.